I'm Debbie. Welcome back. We're going to do a portrait today with a pencil and a piece of paper and eraser. You always need an eraser because they're always changing things around. You don't get it the first time. Okay, here we go. We're going to do this black and white. It's a photograph of a sculpture, but we're going to do it because it has strong lighting and it helps when you're drawing. Okay, so first of all, the head is usually about the size of your hand. So if you just lightly, don't stretch it too big, but just place it down and give yourself a little indicator, a little line of where the top of the head is and where the chin will be. Okay? Then we look back and we go, okay, if that's the case, now the next is the thirds. So the top of her head to the eyebrow to the bottom of her nose, the bottom of her nose to her chin. So she's pretty symmetrical, so we're going to go with that, okay? So here's the top of her head. So we just, notice I'm just putting these little lines in. Okay, then I'm going to divide this into thirds. Let's see. So, 1, 2, so it's about, I would say the eyebrow is probably about here. Let's see, 1, the bottom of the nose should be about here, and then the chin. And now let's see, from the bottom of the nose to the chin, the lip, let's see, is usually halfway in between the bottom of the nose and the chin. All right, now we want to get an idea of the width of the face. So again, like most people want to get that little eyeball in there, skip the details. And if you wear glasses, take them off, because the glasses will help you get right into those details, which we all get caught up in, and then you find out all that work on the eyeball, and the eyeball is too high up or it's too low, and you have to erase it anyway. So take them off for a little while and get the basics in. So, okay, so we have the top of the head and the chin, roughly idea where the eyebrows are. So now we're going to look at the shadowed side of her face and see, okay, there's a lot of shadow underneath, obviously, the eyebrow and the eyebrow. So just giving it a little, get those shadows in. There's also on the side of the face that's not as in the shade, but it's there. Okay, so that's about where. Now, the next thing you want to do is make sure you don't get the face too wide. So let's see, if I would measure, everything is in relationship to something else. So if you're looking at the eyes, like the ear, the top of the ear is on an angle to the eyebrow. So that means the top of the ear is probably going to be somewhere around here. But the width of the face, let's see if this is it, from the eyebrow to the chin, and now I'm just going to turn my hand. And it looks like that's about the width. So the eyebrow to the chin is about the width of her face. So I'm just going to indicate with 2 more lines about the width of her face. Okay? All right, so now we're going to go with those shadows again. If you notice over here, the face has different planes. You have this plane on the side, you have this plane, you have this plane on the side of her nose, you have the bridge of her nose, another plane, the other side, another plane. You've got a lot of planes on the face. And the more we work with those shadows, the more we're going to see those planes better. Now this is the darker side of the face in shadow, in the shade. So we're going to go darker on this side than on this side. And that's how we're going to create that 3-dimensional image. Okay, so let's see. So she has quite a bit of an area above the eyelid. So we don't want to put the eyelid too close, but I see a little indication of the eyelid. Again, it's so, like, I have to hear myself say it too, because I want to put those details in too. But I'm going to try to stay away from that. So okay, now look at the shadow on her forehead and on the side of her head. So first we're going to sketch in like I said, you're going to need your erasers because you'll be erasing. You don't get it right the first time. Okay, so I got the top of the head in. Here's the chin. Okay, now instead of drawing every outline, let's go with the shading. So on the side of her face, we have this shadow on the side of her forehead. Then it goes around the eye. And now we want to avoid this here because that's where the cheekbone is. And let's get some of that shadow in underneath there so that you can see the shadows deep in here underneath the cheekbone. But the light is coming from the right-hand side and it's bouncing here. It's bouncing on the nose, the bridge of the nose, the lip, the chin, and also part of the cheekbones. But underneath that cheekbone, it goes into the shade. So that's shadowed in. So try to get that in. And then you notice the chin is also shaded. So get that chin shaded. Notice we're not putting any details in. We're trying to get that side of the face. And the shadow comes over pretty close to where the lip is, right? All right, so now let's go back. We want to keep moving around so we don't get too caught up in one side and we find out, oh, it's in the wrong place. So let's see. So there's some of the eye. Let's get it, come on to this side. Let's get the shadow in this side of the eye. Now it looks like those two eyebrows do come in a little closer. So let's get that a little closer. All right. Get that shadow in there. And now, let's see, so now there's also shadow under her nose, right? So let's get this shadow in under her nose. And a little bit of the nostril over here. I don't want to go too detailed because it might have to move. But I think that's about where her nose is. There's more shadow under her nose. And it really helps to squint. If you squint, you'll see the shadows much better than if you don't squint. And if you don't have your eyeglasses on, you'll be squinting. So that's a good thing. All right, so now on the side of her nose is a lighter. If you're squinting, you'll see there's a lighter shade. It's not as white as the bridge of her nose. So you want to indicate that with delicate lines of shading. Notice I'm going in the direction of the nose, so it's going down right here. Now you got this plane, and it's also pretty much in shadow except right where the cheekbone sits. So I can lightly go over here in this direction. And this is going to go a little darker, I believe. And now, like I said, everything is in relation to something else. If you take your pencil and you go from the edge of her nostril, it looks like it comes to the inner edge of her eye. So if this is going to be her eye, this nostril might have to go out a little further. Which means this would move over a little bit. Okay, so now let's see if I can get some of this dark. The eyes are, if you think about the skull, your eyes are sitting in a socket, right? So it's like a black hole. It looks like it's a socket. So that would be in the shade if it's a socket. So let's get that socket in there. So it's not just two almonds sitting on the surface. She also has a shadow underneath her eyelid. So putting in all these shadows, and you'll see the eyes, all of a sudden, I didn't draw a nose, but I'm starting to feel like there is a nose there and that there is side of her face. And each time you might see, oh, I can go a little darker there. Keep working with the shadows. Okay. Now if you notice, okay, if I want to indicate where the ear is on a slight angle to the eyebrow, or it's usually directly in line with the eye. So if the eye is here, I'm going to put the ear roughly about here. Now you don't really see much of that ear, so we're just going to sketch that in. It usually comes around the bottom of the nose. Okay, and it's in mostly in the shade too. So we're just gonna shade that in briefly. All right, now, you notice from the ear to her turtleneck, look at the distance. So if we wanna get that correct, let's see, it's about that far before the turtleneck starts. It starts just about where the bottom of her lip is. So I don't have the lip in yet, so I can't really go over there yet. But it's easy to see what I just did. It's so easy to get into those outlines, and we want to try to avoid those outlines. But right now I'm thinking, okay, where's the little shadow under her nose and in between here, and then the lip, the top lip. Let's see how far over the top lip goes out to almost the middle of her eye. So let's say the lip is probably going to have to go out that far. And the top lip is usually darker. And then the middle of the lip is darker because that's where the two lips are meeting, right? You get that dark shade in there. And I don't want to go too dark yet because I might have it in the wrong place, but I'm just going to roughly shade this in. Okay, and now the bottom lip, notice how the bottom lip protrudes a little bit, so you want that to catch the light, so you don't, you're going to put the shadow under the bottom lip, you're not drawing in the lip. So let's find that bottom shadow. She's got a nice full lip, so let's get that shadow under here. It goes down a little ways, right? Got this, and now on this side of the face, and this is going darker, but I'm not even going to go into those details. Now we want to make sure we got the eyes lined up. This is tricky. This is always tricky. So get this, getting them in the same location is tricky sometimes. Now usually there's an eye, if you take the width of the eye, there's usually another third eye in between. Sometimes people's eyes are a little further apart or a little closer, but keep that in mind. I might have her too far over. So if that's the line there, and then we have this. This one's getting too small, right? This one's a little bigger. Now we get a light. I want to catch that, and I might have missed it here. I put the shadow in too quickly. There's that light under her lid is, I missed that. There's a little shadow under here. Okay, so like I said before, you'll need an eraser, because in here I filled in too quickly, and I forgot that light. See the lid? You gotta leave that light. I missed it here too. Okay, let's see. So this would get filled in. I'm not gonna go too dark yet because it could also be in the wrong place. Now notice on this side of the nose, it's also shaded in. And this eyebrow could come over a little bit. So that's shaded in. Notice the pencil's going in the direction of the nose. And it's not a round circle, unless more like that, because you're looking at this angle, you're not seeing a round circle as a nostril. Get that shadow under the nose. And now it goes a little, some of the shadows up here. And let's see, this is still, let's see now where, let's get that hairline in there. I kind of missed that hairline. Now instead of outlining it, I think I'm just going to go a little darker with my pencil. Okay, and now it's slanting down on this side of the head. Alright, so now this side is trickier because it's lighter, so you have to notice the subtleties of those shadows. But this side of the face is still the side of her face, so it has to be a little more in the shade. And you can do what's called cross-hatching. You can have the lines go in one direction, and then you can go in the other direction. It's called cross-hatching. So I'm doing a little bit of that over here. And this shadow looks like it goes up towards the side of her lip. And this one goes up here a little bit more. This can definitely go darker, right? And now this side of the face, let's see. Just look for those highlighted areas. There's a little bit of a highlight right here on that bone structure, but it's in the shade here. Let's shade that in. And this is slightly darker. Now, I think we can bring some of this shadow closer, and it's closer to this shadow under here. Also, this side of the face, being that it's darker, is probably, some of that lip is probably shaded in too. Now let's see about where the turtleneck is coming in, somewhere around here. Being that it's a sculpture. Careless there, but this would all be in the shadows. Shade this in, and I can bring that dark shadow in a little bit if I think it's too wide. Now we can start shading it this way. But notice this side of the turtleneck is darker than this, so we want to get this pretty dark. Not as dark. See how the face is starting to take shape? It's starting to have a more three-dimensional look to it. This surface is still a little too light. It's definitely the shadow under this nose a little bit. And this looks like it's in shadow a little bit, very lightly though. And this is definitely a little deeper. And then this is going to get much darker, right? This could be shaded in a little bit. Remember those sockets, so we're still going to make this a little dark, and this side even more so. I'm going to even go a little darker over here. And now notice under the chin there's a little bit of the light. So this is lightly shaded. I'm trying to get those planes, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 planes. This has got to go darker on this side, right? But you see what's starting to happen, right? Now the other ear is even with the eye. Towards the bottom of the nose. And you keep going back in to get the shading a little darker. Like the lip could definitely be a lot darker. Okay, but everything is in relation to something else. So like this is like the triangle here. Go back to your reference and see if you get it. Is it creating a triangle? You keep working. Notice now in here on this ear is shaded in a little bit in here. Maybe a little bit over here. But you have a portrait. And if you keep working on it and you keep squinting your eyes, you'll get these shades of this shadow in the way it should be. Keep working on it. Now, the bridge of her nose is a little wide, so I might need to go in here a little bit more with the shadow. But you get the idea, right? Okay, your turn.